And we are live. Wednesday night with those guys, and Wednesday night with those guys are sponsored by
those guys. You know,
welcome everyone. Welcome everyone.
Next week we'll have that worked out, so we don't have to say anything.
My bad.
Big Matt,
yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. It is It is Wednesday night with those guys. As you know, Wednesday night with those guys is sponsored by those guys. This is where we talk about everything in the drone world and promote the usage of drones. We talk about it all. We love it all. We're going to talk about it tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about it tonight. Can I play the disclaimer now?
Well, whatever you want to play, but
thank you.
The views and opinions tonight are not necessarily the views and opinions of everybody on the panel and or in the chat.
But I really hope everyone has been able to get out and fly their drones. Please get out and fly your drones, exercise your ability to do so.
Yes, especially here in New York City, because we're going to talk about that a little later. We got special guest Ryan Latourette coming on, drone advocate across the United States. If you've been to our live stream, you know who Ryan is.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what's going on a little bit later on. What's, if there's any leeway yet in what New York has proposed, something that is really, really tough to deal with. And it could end drone flight in New York for most, as we know, and even damage the ability for those who are operating commercially.
Yeah, what's going down here in New York City? Is there still an echo? Deneen, what's good? Glad a lot of you are here early at 6 o'clock. Ryan's going to be here. But SJM said I had a slight echo. Is that echo still there? And I believe that echo is coming from my source, which is this 50-inch screen right here in front of me. And my mic is picking up the audio as well as going in. So if I have an echo in the chat, put 1. If there's no echo, please put a 0 so I can make a slight adjustment here, because I know it needs to be done. I need to turn my mic sensitivity down so there is no echo. So we got to give that about 7 seconds to go through, Herman. What's good with you, man?
Well,
there's an echo, Johnny Drone Flyer.
He is an echo from what, you or from me? Because what I keep hearing
from me.
I keep hearing, it sounds like you have a cable or something that's loose, and it goes in and out, in and out. I'm not sure.
What about now? Is that better?
Yeah, every time you talk, I hear that sound. It's like it's clashing with something in the system.
I believe it's actually my audio coming from the source here, which I'm using this TV as a monitor, and the sound is coming in through the mic.
Really?
Hopefully it's not too bad.
How bad is it? Because I can't hear it in Zoom, and that's
they claim they can hear it in the chat. I just turned it down some, or tried to turn it down some. Let's see how that works for the stream. It's very slight. Thank you, Matt.
Do they hear it when you turn it down?
Huh?
Do they hear it when you turn it down? It was positioning your mic might change it.
Positioning my mic might change it. You know what? You're right. But if I position the mic, then I have to.
Okay. I don't hear you. I don't hear that humming anymore. Does anybody hear that echo anymore now? But you don't hear Lawrence, right? So there's no echo. There's no Lawrence. And you're still gone. You disconnected the mic. Oh, he's gone. That's it. Show's over, folks. No.
You can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
Does that sound better? I just turned my volume up.
You still keep getting that on your sound when you speak, but I don't know what it sounds like to them.
All right, we'll worry about it at another time. I'll have to do an audio test. What's up, Jody? What's up, Matt Bigwell? Matt Bagwell. Sorry.
Do you guys still
Barkley,
hear echo?
107 Drones, Johnny Drone Flyer, Big Matt, Deneen, how are you? Who else is here? SJM, JC's flying.
Okay.
Did I miss anyone?
You
I
said
don't
the name
think.
is here?
Oh, Scott, Jackrabbit's here also.
Yeah, I
But
saw
anyway,
it. I saw
welcome
it.
to Wednesday night with those guys.
Okay. So we got a few people here tonight. And you know what?
Yes,
And you know
click
what's
that
funny?
like button, please. You
That was
definitely
just what
like
I was just gonna make mention of that. Everybody always says hit the like button. And I
Thank
hear
you,
it throughout
Jody.
the stream. And then you have Gary who comes in and he makes emphasis about hitting the like button. And I look over and I'm like,
Hey, Gary puts us up. Gary,
and
you
I'm
gotta
like,
hit him off. He pushes us up to like 35,
and I'm like,
40
wow,
freaking likes.
I didn't hit the like button. But yeah, you know,
Oh, Copper State is here also. I'm sorry.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Brooklyn Jimmy,
Copper
what's
State.
good?
Oh,
John Olson
Jimmy.
also is here.
Yeah, I saw John Olson and
See, if you guys don't type in the
John
chat,
early.
sometimes
Jack
we
Rabbit.
erase you out of the list.
What's going on, Scott? Yeah, a few guys came in early. I saw Jody first. He came in early. And then everybody started trickling in. But there's a few things to talk about tonight, and we got to get a few of them off going, and because we got Ryan coming on to talk with us about the state of where this thing could be going possibly. Because, like I said, I understand what it was designed to do, but if it was intended to encourage companies to operate, then why did you make it a deterrent?
True.
You understand? You made it something that interferes with daily operation.
Well, like everything else that's going on in New York, and we're not going to go into the story until Ryan gets here. But this is like a pre-warm up to where we're headed. But just like everything else that's going on in the state of New York and in New York City, huh?
Got a cough going on. I gotta get some cough medicine.
I'm sorry, but getting back to what I was saying.
Cough medicine.
The mayor of New York City metropolitan area, the 5 boroughs, is in a cash grab. They've already put up the congestion pricing cameras. So now when you come into Manhattan after a certain time below 60th Street, okay.
Oh no, they're gonna have them joints running.
Huh?
They're gonna have them running.
Yeah, I know.
They're gonna have them running. It's just different prices. There's gonna be different prices depending on the time you come in.
Listen, check this out. Right about now, I'm glad I don't own a car, bro. Seriously, I'm glad I don't own a car.
This is just to move around the city. This is ridiculous. It's like, yo, hold on a minute.
All right. Big Matt, don't get started yet. But
I told you gotta get them dudes out of here, man. Vote them out of here.
New York City, get your asses out of our skies and get your asses out of our pockets. But we'll go into that at some time.
But you know what, Lawrence, and I saw this a few times, and I saw it came up again because I got an email.
Right.
I got an email. Plus, I saw it on LinkedIn, and I saw it on a couple of sites here on the computer. But the commercial UAV Expo 2023. They say it's striking up to be better than ever. What they claim is that you can level up your career in the drone industry by taking advantage of being in the same room with your employers and your future employers and employees, customers, and service providers.
Well, it's funny because to be honest, I've never been to the any of the UAV expos. I've never been to CES here in the United States, and I would like to attend one of these at some time and point.
Well, you may be winning a trip too. No. No, I'm just saying that. So they, organizers of the UAV Expo, they've announced a list of exhibitors that are supposed to be showing at the
At
at the
the
show.
expo.
At the
At the
show.
expo.
Well, basically at the show they call it. And this takes place on September 5th through the 7th of this year at the Caesars Forum in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I thought it was great. I thought it was great to see this because
I was trying to zoom in on this, but I don't seem to be able to. But there's FP. I noticed that Skyfish is an FPV company, so they're gonna have everybody from FPV to enterprise companies that only sell enterprise drones to everything in between. So, like I said, won't be able to make it. It's in Las Vegas, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured like this. It's in September.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you bought a good pair of boots that's lightweight with a nice sole, and you started walking now, you could probably be there in time.
No, I'm good.
For the opening event.
I'm good.
Okay. It's a way to get in some good exercise, see the country.
Where's DJI on that list? You know what? It's funny because from what Billy Kyle and a few other influencers were saying, the CES that they had this year was very disappointing. There were a lot of companies that were not there. So I don't know. Someone was asking where's DJI in that list. I have no Robitussin to get that. Oh, Robitussin, get that tussin for that cough. Big Mac.
Yeah,
Get that tussin.
I got Martinelli's apple juice.
Yeah, okay. Yes, they are, Brooklyn Jimmy. You're right. That a lot of tech vendors are going to be at that particular event. But
also, when you talk about this is a couple of days. This is interesting.
It's usually over the weekend.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Steven had said he was interested in being at this event.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys haven't clicked that like button, please do so.
No, I was looking at a flight out there. They got a flight that stops 3 times on the way there, and you can get there for like $150, Lawrence.
This is why I don't play poker.
And Vegas is the town that never sleeps, so you can just keep on moving. You don't have to have a hotel room.
Yeah, all right. At some time and point, you're gonna have to take a shit. All right. And I'm not gonna do it in no public joint. I'd rather it be a hotel room. Tell you to stand back for about 10 minutes while I burn the incense. You know how it go down. You don't have to stop.
Well,
DJI is not attending the event.
First off, how it goes down, you already mentioned that. Nobody else needs to know anymore because you already said what you had to do.
You got to burn it out with that high proof. Big Matt's on the roll. Unfortunately, Barkley says it right there. DJI is not attending. I don't even know if they attended. I don't think they attended CES this year.
No, they didn't. I don't think.
Yeah. So, makes you wonder. They that damn busy?
It's not that they're that busy. I think that they're like the gorilla in the room, and I think that if you listen to what everybody else and I hope and well, I shouldn't say I hope, but because this is where this is going. But most of these shows now are being geared towards like enterprise stuff, like stuff where
a lot of them. Anafi came in and went in.
Drones are coming in for like search and rescue stuff, and the commercial space, and now we start looking at shit we're gonna ride in and stuff like that. And I hope this doesn't turn into a show of stuff we're gonna ride in that no one else can afford after,
Right. Everyone's trying to get money up to build these things for people to ride in.
After,
But
don't
like
get
I
me
said,
wrong.
Flyfish is on that list, and I'm on their Facebook page, and they are FPV strictly.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for everybody existing in one happy world. It's possible. Look at it. It's done, but nobody else realizes how easy it can be done. It can be done.
Barkley has a valid point. DJI doesn't need to go. Their market market share is over 80%.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not so much about DJI, not DJI or DJI, not DJI or DJI, not. It's the fact that these shows start gearing towards someplace else, and it's like, wait a minute, what? Whatever happens. Okay, let me ask you guys this. Other than DJI and Autel on that quality level, who else is making consumer drones?
I know the answer.
How they said, I make the chest move and hit the clock, right?
Yeah. You just made the question. He just says, think about what Herman just said. Other than Autel, and we're talking here in the United States, okay? Here in the United States, other than Autel and DJI,
that we have ability to.
Okay, stop. We have to say they used to be called Hubson, and then they went to what, Exo drone or something.
That's not a joke.
Wow, dude, you're just so bougie. He just heard me. He said that's not a drone. Okay.
No, because when you fly shit like that, you feed into the same fears of the
people went enterprise
who are out there that's worrying about whether or not this thing is going to come crashing down into people's place.
Skydio went enterprise as well. After that, Skydio 2
Flynn was good, man.
They're not making any more. Flying Flynn, how are you? Skydio, I guess. Well, no, Skydio is geared more towards enterprise also.
Yeah, because they came out with that drone, left everybody.
Leonard, how are you?
Where that came out with it. They did a couple of updates. Match set, Glenn Levette, match set 1.
Right.
Then they came out with a couple of updates, like I said, for that, and they left everyone hanging.
You see what Visual Line of Sight put? He says, I want Tesla to make a drone. No, you don't, dude.
No, you don't, because
no, you don't.
You'll be subjected to the same old nonsense that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, everyone that owns a Tesla
and
has to do updates on their car, usually once a month or every other month, because there's some bug. Did you see there's even recalls on Teslas now?
That's been going on, but I don't foresee it not being a bad idea. But see, when we start getting into that, we do a lot of stories on stuff that talks about drones that we don't fly. But when we start getting down to the nitty gritty of it, we got to talk about the guys that what we fly. And what the guys
I agree with you 100%.
And when you start looking at some of these companies and what's going on, they're not making products. They're not making products for these guys to fly.
Big Mac got jokes. He says X Dynamics makes consumer drones.
Who?
X Dynamics.
What's that?
The company, I think, that we're actually using real Sony sensors.
Who, X Dynamics? I know what you're talking about now. I thought that was gonna go somewhere, and it kind of didn't. But it's neither here nor there. But moving right along, one of the things that stood out from last week when I was I mentioned to you about was Ames Community College and their associate's degree of applied science and degree for drone pilots. You know,
Yeah.
that was one that just stood out to me last week. And I talk about a lot of things we getting we want to talk about American made drones. Well, you got to start getting people from and then you got to allow it to you got to allow it to happen. You can't keep creating the obstacles for it to happen. So,
Yo, Big Matt, Big Matt's on the road
gotta
tonight.
get it from the bottom up, from the
True.
start with nurturing the science from the youth. And I'm glad to see some of these colleges you see popping up with some of these degree programs, and some of them actually evolving their programs that they already have in existence for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. You're 100% right about that. More and more colleges are stepping their game up.
But Lawrence, the public safety drone review, August 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Augmented reality remote ID device. The next public drone review is Tuesday, August 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. I believe you could register for that with Drone Life. To check that out. Don't quote me. I believe it is with Drone Life. Yes, it is. And how to register, I'm not exactly sure, but if you check it out with Drone
I'm
Life,
looking for a link now, but I didn't put one.
Yeah. Well, actually, this month's host, Timothy Martin and Miriam McNabb, she's I guess the chief editor over there at Drone Life. They're going to review news about public safety, first responders, and with the fire and the police. And they're going to also talk about they're going to answer some questions basically on some of the devices, some of the stuff that's out there now for remote ID, and they're going to answer questions on the subject for those who are still a little confused on how that's going to roll out. So you're going to hear it from those, who people who have not only have a stake in the devices that are available for remote ID, but those who understand and speak a little bit more of the lingo on remote ID. And maybe we'll speak a little bit of it tonight, but because it is the subject.
Sure remote ID is going to come into our conversation.
Come up.
With Ryan here, remote ID has to come up. You're 100% right in the conversation we're going to have later. I agree. Yes, guys, if you can click that like button if you haven't already, we appreciate it. I look forward to the conversation because Ryan has questions. Well, Ryan has some information and his concept of things. We were joking, Herman, when we were talking about how New York City wants these new rules to come into effect and how there's so many loopholes. But we'll go into that.
Yeah, but some of those loopholes I was reading and checking out, it's kind of like a touchy subject.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I did want to talk about tonight was that I'm quite sure everyone tuned in yesterday morning and they checked out Double Up, which was a nice launch by DJI. DJI is toning the launches down a little bit to some videos.
I thought it was a little soft. I thought it was a little soft myself.
Yeah, they toned them down a little bit, but I guess it's, they sneak it in some features, and I guess by the time these features become twerked and top notch and stuff like that, you'll see it on like the flagship drone in a couple of years. And in a couple of years, the major flagship drone by DJI will probably be, at, the peak of, got
No,
this.
go ahead. Keep talking. I just lowered the volume on it.
Yeah, it'll be at the point of where it'll probably be at the end of life. So
Well, the Air 2S is at the end of life after 2 years.
Well, it's actually 3 years because you're going on almost 2 years now with the Mavic 3. So
You have a valid point.
yeah, so like I said, by the time this drone is updated and a few more products come out, it'll be about 4 years that or 3 to 4 years that the Mavic 3 was released. And the way they're spitting them out now, like they're dealing cards in Vegas, there'll probably be a Mavic 4 coming around the corner with some features that you don't see on this, and these same features here, and whatever was enhanced that came along throughout the way that they thought of with the OcuSync 4. Now, it seems like it almost comes to a situation where are you waiting for the flagship drone, or are you waiting for the S series that's
what
the Air series?
It's
for the Air series that comes out with all of the new features
and
a new operating system.
It's funny you say that because a lot of people are going to jump on this Air 3 because they didn't jump on the Mavic 3 series, and this for $1,500, you're getting a 5 more bundle.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If you didn't buy and I always felt this way, and I said this in a couple of the videos that I did.
Herman went out really quick, but getting back to what we were talking about, I think a lot of people, from what I'm understanding, and the influencers that I've seen, those influencers have said this Air 3 they like better than the Air 2S for the simple reason it's a lot beefier. Now, if you know drone comparison or drone sizes, the Air 2S is one size. You have the Mavic 3, which is one size, and the actual Air 3 is in between that. And from what Billy Kyle, I watched his video yesterday actually, and he was saying how it's a lot beefier. So let's see what happens. I want to see somebody with one. I'm going to be honest about this, guys, and this is just me personally. Yes, it did it again. I'm being honest about this. I'm not getting the Air 3, and I'm being honest because I have the Air 2S 5.4K. I'm happy. I have the Mavic 3 Classic 4.3 sensor, and I don't want to go back to cell phone sensors. But if they come out with an Air 3S, that I'll jump on because I'm sure it'll have something this one doesn't. In about 7 to 9 months, you'll start seeing hints for the and you're hearing this from me. Let me play the disclaimer.
The views and opinions tonight are not necessarily the views of everybody on the panel and or in the chat.
Meaning,
you got an echo going over there.
Why?
I don't know. I heard it when you was doing the disclaimers, but I don't know what you were talking about. I
was saying that I am not personally going to get the Air 3 because I want to wait for the Air 3S to come out. And Hold on. I played the disclaimer saying that this is me personally, because if you stick with DJI's format, there's a very strong possibility. This is just me. That's all. I'll leave it alone.
There we go. He scratched up the devil. There we go. He said Beetlejuice 3 times. Oh, that's it.
I heard it was not beefy enough for Billy. You know what, Draymond? In comparison to the Air 2S, he made a valid point. Flying, he made a valid point when flying the Air 2S in comparison, and I own both of these, the Air 2S and the Mavic 3 Classic. When flying the Air 2S, the flight characteristics are different from flying the Mavic 3. I can fly the Air 2S in 20-mile-per-hour winds and have very little movement, where in 20-mile-per-hour winds with the Mavic 3, it's like, that's all you got. So
yeah, and there's a few other things too involved that I've noticed from when I watched a couple of the videos. But what I had left off saying is that what you know, one of the things, because this drone has been released, and from what I saw, that on DJI as well as Best Buy and B&H, they're in stock, they're ready to go. Had you ordered the day they were released here in New York, you'd be looking to receive yours by the end of the week from each of these companies. So they're available. This is from what their sites are saying.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys that are out there lurking, you can click the like button too. It wouldn't hurt.
This drone has been covered 101 million times, but there was a few specs and things that stood out to me. And one of the things that always with these drones that interest me is the cameras, because that's what they are. They're cameras that fly. And where they go with a lot of this, and I've said this 100 times over, DJI is about, for you as the consumer purchasing, they're about you creating your cinematic experience. Whatever it is that you want to create, their products are there for you to create your experience.
Exactly.
I'll also stand by what I've also said about the sensor size in cameras. The bigger the eye, the better the see. Image quality overall,
Hey, Rob.
Hands down, the larger the sensor, the better you will get on the
You've
image
been
quality.
saying it for years. The bigger the eye, the more you can see. And that was the point.
No, what I've also said to you is that, and this has become the topic of discussion a couple of times, and I've had this conversation with Billy actually, as far as whether or not a larger sensor or better image quality. And better image quality is always going to be it's always going to win over, no matter what
the selling point. The selling point, like cup holders in a car.
Yeah, but no matter what the sensor size is, it's always going to be the issue is the image quality. Because if the camera doesn't work well, and this has been a discussion back and forth between guys fighting amongst each other with Autel and the Autel camera guys and the DJI camera guys, of which camera takes better pictures and which one has better image quality. It's been back and forth, and that's always going to be the image issue. And
thanks, Rob.
The one thing that has been the thing that as guys have, the image quality has gotten better on some of these smaller sensors.
Yes, well, that's technology coming over.
Right, and whatever it is that they're doing with
trickling down, I should say.
Yeah, a lot of the science comes from some of your larger format cameras that are more of like your mirrorless cameras that are out there and stuff like that. And we get to enjoy having that. But when they came out with this 1/1.3 sensor, the CMOS sensor, this is coming from off of DJI's site, the specs. Everybody was like, "Oh, the 1-inch sensor," and I was like, "We spoke on that, and we spoke on that before, and why the 1-inch sensor being used on this camera." But they have their reasons and they have their technology that they're putting.
Well, you see what Big Matt put. This is one. This one is truly a low light beast of a camera, and I agree with you 100% on that, Big Matt.
Well, like I said, they've improved the image quality, because
Right.
when you start getting into a sense of looking at something at night, being able,
Mm-hmm.
and let's be honest, what is a camera? A camera functions just like your eyeball.
Yep. A
To
little
those of
better.
you who don't understand that, camera functions just like your eyeball.
True.
So the more light that's available, the more you can actually see. So the little part of your eye the little black part will open up larger, and it's dependent on how much light is coming into your eye, whether you noticed it or not.
Right.
And that's the easiest way to be able to get people understand how a camera actually functions. And so with that being said, this camera, you said a low light beast. I'm looking at it, and this the some with the same cameras that's or sensors that's on one of them that's on the Mavic 3, the Pro, that sensor. So
Yes.
what they have on here, they got two sensors on the two cameras on this dual camera. One is a
Mm-hmm.
wide angle camera. You said with the one
Thanks for
over
listening, Rob. Yes.
CMOS that's capable of shooting 48 megapixel stills.
A
That's
triple stack sensor,
it's
faster
a
RAM.
what is it, 82 uh degree field of view with a
Yes.
24 millimeter equivalent format equivalent with a f 1.7 aperture.
I'm glad that they're finally going past that 2.8 and sticking with that 1.7.
Well, it's a smaller sensor. It'll actually help it out a little bit. But see, the 2.8, they
Well,
still
they're
have.
overclocking the hell out of that sensor, though.
Well, no, no. I mean, there's things that are going on other than that you don't that you may not understand. The medium tele camera, we know that the 1 point same size. It's also capable of shooting the 48 megapixels. That's a 35 degree field of view with a 70 millimeter format
Mm-hmm.
equivalent with your favorite 2.8 aperture standard on that. We know that the video transmission system is the O4 system, right? Remote controls. We got what remote controls is 1080 at 30 frames and the 1080 at 60 frames. The
Right.
one that the one that everybody loves the most is the battery with the
Mm-hmm.
4041 milliamp hour.
Speaking about battery, weren't you going to show one?
Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about that
Okay.
four- with the four what was it 46 minute they claim
Right.
uh aircraft. Now, the one that this came into play with the Air series, and I guess it became an issue with the Air two. It was the Air was it the Air 2S, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the maximum descent speed and the maximum ascent speed,
Yeah.
that those became a critical issue, and things once the when they I guess that became a thing when it was the Air 2S, right? When that came out, they started putting out
Yes.
that information,
Mm-hmm.
and well, both ascent and descent speed on this is was it 10 meters per second with
A
this?
lot, a little bit faster than the Air 2S.
Yeah, a little faster, a little
Hey,
faster.
Angie.
I mean, the drone is a real nice drone. I mean, we're looking at, there's a lot of features that with this drone that stand out, and these are just some of the ones that stick out to me that I wanted to mention because you know these are some of the things that I myself was interested in this drone. Uh,
Yeah.
the whole was it the horizontal speed with no wind at sea level.
Mm-hmm.
That was what 21 meters per second. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of features with this drone
Big John.
that a lot of people I think could really benefit. If you were looking to purchase something at this level, you can't go wrong with this drone. I'm being serious with you.
This is true. This is true. But
it's a good drone.
I'm glad to see a lot of people in here. Let me give a shout out real quick to everyone that's in here. Big John just came in. Jack Scott, the Jack Rabbit FPV, Barkley 107 Drones, Angie Lost Girls, Jody Drone Shots. Who else is here? Big Matt chilling in the background. Rob C is working and listening to the live stream. Johnny Dronefly was in here earlier. Flying Flynn, SJM, JSK. Who else? Jody Draymond, Recovery One, Lake Pilot, DJI Going Wild. That's someone new here. I haven't seen before. We appreciate you guys. Now back to business.
All right, but Lawrence,
it's time to pay homage to our sponsor.
Oh, okay.
I just figured I'd point that out because we are.
Well, let's go. Let's get it because we got a few things we got to keep on going on here.
Yeah, trying to stick with schedule.
Wednesday Night with Those Guys is sponsored by Those Guys.
There we go. Got it out my system. I'm good.
Right on.
Got it out my system. I don't know what's going on, but Chrome crashed on me earlier.
I don't know what happened to it either.
So as long as I'm still streaming through Zoom, we're good. They can still see me and everything. It's just Chrome for some reason crashed. Oh no, Big John and Big Matt.
As long as everything is working properly, I don't care. Let's get it on. But one of the things that I also wanted to mention to you was also like with the whole, and this is the Kodak formats with the H.26.4, and they both cameras I believe support that. But here's the thing, we got to remember this one, and a lot of guys don't. We all get caught up in the whole 10-bit, but in both cameras in the normal setting, it's the 8-bit in the H.26.
Right.
4, and in the 5.65, and in the HDL and D-Log M is a 10-bit H.265. So check that out on the specs on DJI.
It's in 10-bit. That's interesting.
Before purchasing that, and
it drops it to 10-bit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the zoom and the wide angle to from 1 to 3 to 3 times, and the medium in the 3 to 9 times.
All right, c'est la vie, right?
I like it. I like the drone. I mean, it's real interesting. I like the new airframe that they put on it. It's just a smaller version of the
right, and how the props fit in.
Now, what I wanted to mention, sorry not to cut you off, but
go ahead.
No, that's it. Because I wanted to go through something that I wanted to show you. But go ahead, say what you said.
No, I was agreeing with you. What you were saying. I like how the props actually lock in. There's a slit for the props on the bird. I did have, I don't know what the hell happened, but now they're here.
Well, you lost the picture?
No,
there were so many pictures of it.
Here you go.
Yeah, how they sit right into the back there, and no need for the straps and stuff like that.
Section here, this little section, this little divot, when you pack it away, the props actually slide right in there.
That's nice.
So now they're taking into consideration the props. Now, the only problem I have with that is your props will not slide all the way to the other side.
They won't
Which
slide over
means-
the top of the bird, but they can still slide out.
Right. But
Yeah.
other than that, oh, also I wanted to point out this controller they revamped with the 4.0.
Yeah, they put a fan on it.
There are actually 4 antennas in here. There are 2 patch antennas and 2 omni-directional antennas. Because before they did this, those 2 patch antennas, I don't know if they changed them out, they're using the same ones, but before they added these antennas on there, Herman, it was an okay radio. Now it's
I'm curious to know what the new wiring with all the antennas in the radio, how they did that. But I got that with the whole drone and everything like that.
Right, but you saw this also, right? We were talking about this yesterday.
The whole
when I was over by you, the
obstacle avoidance. Yeah, and how it actually with the sensors that's on it, how it
360
all the way around it.
Right, but expect I did mention and I did suspect and I was like hoping that they'd put night mode in this drone, which they did. But expect I'm going on a limb by saying this also, Herman. Expect them to make every drone from this point on with 360 obstacle avoidance.
In that manner? Well, it works with the Mavic 3, so why not?
Right. Now, I don't know what the conversion is 0.5 to 18 meters is, but this is a hole. This is a
but if it can fit in there and the sensors didn't pick it up, then
that's my point. These sensors here, the angle of these sensors is so wide, it's 72 degrees. It actually overlaps. That's what this is showing here. So,
if
good luck and kudos to.
Yeah, I listen. The videos are out there. Check it out. The guys are testing them out and flying through. I want to see some close quarters with this drone. But the one thing that comes up with this drone that everybody talks about is the fact that the battery is just like the Mavic 3 batteries, and they're right.
6 minutes more than the Air 3.
No, the design of the battery.
Into
the body of the drone, and I'm glad to see that DJI is going back to that.
Exactly. Actually, there was actually antennas
because there was actually an evolution of how that battery actually came about. Because at one time they had a battery that you plugged in and stuck the battery in and closed the little door, and then they went through this battery, which is the same thing of being able to plug it into the drone body itself, but it had its connection and clip on this side, on the side.
Well, I'm a big fan of the batteries going into the back of the drone because I started out with my first DJI drone was a Phantom, and that's what you did.
And this is an old Phantom battery that went into the body of the drone, clipped in, and it made its power connection on the side there. Now, this battery has no swelling. It's 7 years old, and it still charges.
Right. So
we got a
technology
DJI Phantom 4 Pro battery. This battery is about
it's been that long.
And it plugs into the drone and it clips into the body of the drone.
Yep.
Can't come out. That's where DJI started, and that's where they went back to. And there's no swelling on this battery either. Now, thank God the Air 2S batteries, there's no swelling on those. But these batteries, this style batteries, everybody knows, has been prone to swelling.
Yep. The cheap plastic, I'm thinking.
Well, I don't know how it is, but with the mini series, the mini went back to the plug into the body of the drone battery. So I'm glad to see DJI go back to that.
Matt Bagwell says Dobo should have a good example of that in his video about this drone, comparing it to
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah.
I saw that.
And you know
I
what's
saw that,
funny,
but I
Herman?
never really
Remember,
liked that type of battery system.
but hold on, Herman. Remember, we experienced this. I did have one battery, Phantom 4 Pro battery, that was starting to swell slightly, and you could not pull the battery out until the battery cooled down. And I like that. And the reason, this sounds crazy, but I like that feature because there was a problem, if you remember, with the Mavic Pro. There's a problem with the Mavic 2 Pro,
Right.
where the batteries would swell and they would loosen while in the air, and the drone would drop from the sky.
Okay.
So maybe DJI has said we're gonna
So you
stick here.
go back to pushing that battery into the drone and locking it in. It was the best design that they had. Go back to that.
And even the Inspire batteries, Jody knows this. He has an Inspire 1. The battery was that push in and lock system.
Right.
It went into the top of the drone, but it was a push in and lock system. More so,
Actually,
not so much like the Mavic series. The Mavic series, you can actually, I know people that have zip tied their batteries.
Actually, in the Phantom 4 Pro, the V2, when that battery locks in, it recognizes it in the software.
That's not a feature, Lawrence. That's the highest milliamp battery DJI ever produced, the Phantom 4 Pro. Yes.
Oh yeah. Now, if you had that same battery,
5780 milliamp.
If you had that same milliamp hour on today's technology, you'd fly for an hour. But Lawrence, what's going on with this Action 4? I see some prices, and I saw some
pictures.
Talk about I saw pictures, and I saw some talk about different releases of some stuff there, like couple of the standard combo and the action combo, the action advanced combo.
Yeah, this was the only picture that threw me for a loop. And I was like, why do they have a CGI photo for
because they want to throw you for a loop.
Right. Like DJI always does. Because I said, do they have a mode? I actually thought, do they have a mode that can take a life-size photo and make it look like anime or like they have those apps that can do it? But getting back to the pieces and
they sent out some photos here. Your man Deals, he was all over it, I guess. Once again, Deals, but Igor, just like how he was all over
Igor. I said Ivan.
The Air 3, but oh damn, who the hell is that? Somebody's knocking on the door. Someone's like,
okay, but getting
Lawrence,
back to
talk about this Osmo stuff here. And
go ahead.
I'll be right back.
I need to take this photo down so I can go back and to the chat and actually take the information that I'm reading. But this Action 4, honestly, I still haven't had a chance to put the Action 3 on an FPV bird because DJI came out with the freaking 03 camera system. But this camera is quoted at having D-Log M 10-bit color, which of course produces colors you can't even see with the human eye, but that's a good thing to know. 4K UHD, 120 frames per second, meaning you could shoot 4K 120, no more 4K 60, 4K 100. They're going 4K 120, and I think that's a great deal. Also, Rocksteady 3.0 liquid stabilization. Come on, I'm still stuck on the 4K 120 frames. Because you know how much you could slow that down? I'm saving videos right now in 4K 60, right? Using the DJI 03 unit and using a couple of GoPros. 4K 60, that's the best way to go with quality, I think, right now for an action cam. Now they're coming out, they have 4K 120 and Rocksteady 3.0. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't checked out the Action 3, which had an earlier version of Rocksteady, and it's impressive. it's impressive. What were you gonna say, Herman?
No. I'm just interested to see what's because the last one just came out.
That's what I was saying. I didn't even get a chance to put the last one on my FPV bird. Remember, I had somebody 3D print me a print for the Action 3, and here it is, and Action 4 is out.
Yeah, you know.
So, am I going to get the Action 4? No, hell no. I still haven't played around with the Action 3. But they have it. This is a kit they're selling. This is their fly more kit.
Well, that's the same one I bought with the 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we don't have anything on price, right? I didn't see anything.
Yeah, we do. From what I saw,
I must have
what I saw
overlooked.
listed was $399. I guess that's for the standard combo, and $499 for the Action 4 advanced combo,
Which is
that
right
with
the
all the
selfie
batteries
stick,
and
right,
the battery
selfie
charger,
stick.
just like the 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
All right,
Lawrence,
so
we got Ryan coming in.
it's that time already?
Yeah, it's that time. We got Ryan coming in.
Okay. Well, do we have time to well, yeah, okay, let's go.
Well, we do have time to show it. We have time to show what well, we had a little well, we had asked guys to send in. Well, first let's introduce Ryan, and then we can talk about the video.
We're green on mic.
Hey, I can hear you.
Okay,
Green on mic and audio.
All right.
We have Ryan Latourette coming in. He's an advocate in the drone community, and he came in to talk to us.
And a lot of you are here to see this gentleman right now, because we're going to have a lot of fun now. But
right, he came in to talk to us tonight about this what's going on with this permit plan that New York has.
You can just say debacle.
Bag of shit.
Yeah, okay, whatever you want to call it. But before we get into that, Lawrence and I, we've been doing a little bit of stuff here and there.
Correct.
And one of the stops that we make along our monthly journey to a couple of places that we have to go to, we got a chance to because we were working on something. We actually got a chance to steal some footage and and put together a little something that that we wanted to show you. I've always been.
It's very short. It's a minute and 30 seconds
to do a fly through, and we actually got the opportunity to do it. And Lawrence kind of put together something a little small to show
very
you.
Small.
Yeah, because he's not brave enough to hit the hatches and pop out. So
well, honestly, Brian, we got a chance to fly this site, for a client, and then he was like, "Well, after you do what you do, you can hang out or whatever." And I was like, "Ooh, okay." But this is just a basic clip of a lot of footage that we took. Okay, so you guys can see that, I'm guessing.
We're here on the job site. Normally what we're here to do is to get a lot of photos. But today,
we're about to do a FPV fly through for our client here, and hope you enjoy the flight.
So it's gonna be a nice little one shot straight through the site and back.
We'll see how it goes. Okay, that's
We're
it.
here on
We're
the
done.
job site. Normally, what we're here
But
to
the
do
video
is
doesn't want to stop. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Herman. But
But yeah,
it's a
New York.
small footprint of a building, but
Yeah.
it's what it is. When you let kids play, when the cat's away, the mouse will play. But I have some more
Absolutely.
footage I'm saving for YouTube, going more extensive. But that was it.
No, but New York,
Welcome, Ryan.
New York's new
Hello.
New York's new drone permit may be entirely moot before it takes flight. I mean, what's going on with that?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, let's look at kind of the history, right? So, first and foremost, we have New York City with the aviation law that was put in, more than 70 years ago.
Right.
And the intent was to disallow takeoff and landings of helicopters basically off of rooftops, because otherwise every skyscraper in New York would have its own helipad, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a smart idea at the time. It did not have unmanned aviation in its mindset, right? Because unmanned aviation really wasn't a thing at that point in time for the city, so they didn't really include that.
Well, can I, not to cut you off, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
But how does that work in with the fact that they had, well, at the time it was called the Pan Am building, where they had the rooftop crash incident with the helicopter? That would have been well after this law or this ordinance was
Excuse
even
me a
mentioned.
second, Herman. I'll be right back.
So I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing. There's still been helicopter crashes. There's still helipads on top of certain buildings, right? But that's all been approved. They had to get approval to get those helipads in place. But the concept was, hey, we didn't want a helipad on every single skyscraper, so let's put in some type of restrictions to make that the case. And I think I tried to do a little article on that to show some of the other things that they didn't want to have happen, like landing an airplane on Fifth Avenue, right? Or, landing a helicopter right in the middle of downtown too. So, and yet those things have happened, right? And in the case of, Fitz, he actually landed his, not even his, he stole a plane and he landed in front of a bar right on the street. And then a few years later, he did the same thing again because some guy at the bar said, "Oh, you couldn't do that again." And so he did it, right? And in each of those cases, they didn't use the aviation ordinance to chase after him. Instead, the FAA got him for other things.
Where did he take off from?
New Jersey. Everything is done in New Jersey, right? But I guess it's that idea that, yes, they've got the aviation ordinance. They've used it in some cases, not many. And then in terms of UAS, they have tried to use it on certain people. They've not been very successful in doing so. One of the last cases was a journalist who was getting pictures of the mass graves that were being dug on Hart Island.
Yes.
I remember
they confiscated his drone. They, went to court after him, and suddenly, I mean, it was like out of the blue, all the charges were dismissed. Right? They didn't even get to court to have that. So, the aviation ordinance was not really in use for UAS, and at the same token, the city was still touting, "Hey, you can't fly drones in the city unless you're at the 5 different parks for recreational flight that are part of AMA." So they held on to that, and Zemo was the media company that said, "Hey, wait a minute, we absolutely want to get clarification on this, and we're going to sue the city, and we're going to sue the city on the First Amendment because you are preventing us from going out and getting footage that we need and we have a right to. Now, I understand that the Zemo case has settled. It did not get through to the courtroom. The judge had previously said, hey, we're going to allow this to go forward. And then on Monday, it has settled. I still have not seen the paperwork on that. I've asked one attorney friend of mine if they would have that paperwork for me. He's looking into that. I can probably download that now. I got to take a look again to see if I can get that. My understanding is part of this permit was the reasoning for them to say, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and settle for this. At the same token, that doesn't take away the First Amendment argument, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we have is a permit system now that's saying you need to 30 days in advance request a particular location and time and date. And if we approve it, which is a big if, then we'll provide you an ability to have a few multiple sites and a smattering of dates that are potential for that activity. Well, if we think about it, how many breaking news stories happen 30 days in advance at a particular site, particular time, right? So now you've got a First Amendment issue right then and there. And then at the same token, this is preventing business. So you've got, just like Lawrence was flying the drone at a building site. Well, that business wants that type of footage about their building activities. Some of these contracts are already signed and sealed. Now you're not going to be able to get that information fast enough to get a permit, or you're going to have to go back to the client and say, oh yeah, I got a tag on $150. And I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do this anyway, because they may deny me.
If they don't want to hear that, what's going to happen is they'll just not hire you.
Right. And so now you're really preventing somebody's income, which, that's an even huger hit other than just First Amendment. So I do think that there's going to be a legal challenge. It's going to be along the same lines as what Zemo just did. And then at the same token, I think it's important that we look at the language of the ordinance. But yeah, Lawrence, you're going to say something.
Can I interrupt really quick? And you were saying how Zemo, we've done the story on Zemo suing the New York State or whatever they're doing. But I've been looking online. I don't have the exact information, but I've been looking on Facebook. There is a small group of people that are trying to hire a lawyer to sue the NYPD or New York State for these particular rules that they're putting through. And as soon as I get the information, I will forward it to you. Maybe you could look into it further. Maybe you have some people who have access to that information. I don't know. But as soon as I find out more, I will definitely get back to you on that. But people are talking about suing the NYPD for this rule. And Rob in the chat also pointed out, New York City doesn't have the jurisdiction. We know this as drone pilots, but apparently Mayor Adams doesn't.
Well, it's funny you say that, because what we also mentioned that how the governor, Ms. Ogle, she knocked down or vetoed that bill for the helicopter noise pollution to be able to sue helicopter pilots and everyone involved in the flight. And that was not because they don't have the jurisdiction to legislate in that area.
Right.
Now, when I look at something like this, and I look at where the city is going when a lot of stuff is going on right now, it's a backdoor way of trying to sell airspace, and they're using this navigation law or ordinance to be able to nickel and dime you for a daily flight for this or monthly flight, because there's no way. I haven't heard anything about for someone who's a company. They made this a deterrent. Let's be honest, they made it a deterrent for for guys who are operating, who maybe what you call recreational,
Hey,
that are out
Ray.
there that are in places where they may not want you to be. I kind of understand that, but you made this a deterrent, and this deterrent made it kind of hard for guys who are using the technology for work purposes to operate daily when I have
Legally.
to apply monthly, when I've already done the things that I've done to have to register legally in the state as a business,
Mm-hmm.
what I've done legally with the federal government to obtain the certificate, what I've done legally as far as insurance wise and being able to obtain the insurance policies to operate in the places to be able to operate. Just like that,
Right.
one construction site alone is asking for $1.5 million of
Right, the one that we flew,
insurance just to be able to operate in that place.
and
So
some sites want $2 million.
So when you get into to talking about things, and I think what remote ID coming out, there's a well enough that the police department has, if they're worried about drones in the area, instead of hiring a team of people who are not qualified to vet these applications and are not qualified to keep up with the applications that are going to come to you, that not are needed for monthly purpose, but are needed for daily operations. For the amount of application, you might as well get those people to monitor whatever drone apps that are out that will monitor for drones that are registered or not registered, that are legally registered flight drones that are so people can operate properly and integrate really into this system that you are talking about creating. You know, that I don't know if it's a rant, but that was my, the way I feel about it.
Well, yeah. So let's separate a couple of things, right? So, number one, when we're talking about this particular ordinance, they are using their land use jurisdiction for this restriction. So they're not talking about anything in the airspace, right? But they're literally preventing you from getting into the airspace by placing the land use restriction. So if you look at the language of the ordinance itself, right, it's very specific. And I was actually pulling this up earlier, and I think I just went past it. But it's talking about, let me see, definition. I'm going to go past that. So unmanned permit requirements. So this is saying an application for a permit to take off and land an unmanned aircraft within New York City must be filed. So they're not talking about to fly. They're not talking about to operate, right? Which would be talking about airspace, fly, or they forgot even the word operate, right? Because you operate on the ground. You don't operate in the air. So the loophole here is you can't take off, you can't land, but you can stand there and operate, right? You can fly because you're in airspace, which is the FAA jurisdiction solely.
Right.
And then New York City is recognizing that. So the moment they missed operate is the moment that you have a loophole where you can take off out, somehow be in the airspace. So let's say you jump in the air or throw your drone up in the air and start it, right? You have immediately defeated the takeoff instance because you're on the ground, but the drone is not. The drone has not taken off from the ground. So it's in airspace.
Now, so we were going to talk about this because I was joking with you in Messenger, and I was saying, so what you're saying is, if I don't want to pay that $150 fee, you cannot take off from your hand and land in your hand because you're not touching property. Correct?
Your feet are on the ground. So if your drone is in your hand and your feet are on the ground, then that's going to be takeoff from the ground. So that's the way they're going to do it.
Now stop.
Yes.
Now, what if you take off or land from your car? Now, go with what I'm about to say.
Yep.
If you are in your car, but you pay for a registration to drive that car
operations on the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Which
pay
is state
for that.
mandated.
And it's your private property. You are not technically touching, and you are paying to be in that spot in your car by paying your registration, correct? Can you do that?
No, because your car wheels are touching the ground. So
I know,
the car is still land use.
I know, but now
Yeah.
here's how Herman and I are going to get around it. And I told a few people on Facebook that you know why I will explain why we're not angry about flying in New York City, because doing these construction sites, that is their property. That the owners own that property of land that we are on. And as long as we are inside and on that property of the land, you can't bother us.
Yeah, no.
No.
So let's look at that too, right? So if you are on private
just
property,
pop all my damn bubbles, Ryan.
I know it. If you're on private property, right? They still control, because it's within the city of New York. They still control that property. They still have land use jurisdiction. So it's the same type of jurisdiction that they would use for zoning ordinance, right? So if that company was building a pool and they didn't have a permit to build the pool, New York City would ticket them. Or if you wanted to build a fence. So it's the same thing. You're on that private property. Those rules still apply to you because it's land use jurisdiction. Now, take this. Get a mini trampoline. Jump off the trampoline. The moment that you are off the trampoline, right, you are in airspace.
Yeah, but
True.
But what I don't understand is how they transfer.
At 59 years old, I'm not doing that.
But what I don't understand is legally how that transpires over to you standing on the ground, hand catching or launching. How does their ownership of property space transfer through a human being where you can't legally own a human?
No, it's dictating your rights on what you do on their land. So it would be the same thing of, you can't urinate on the ground and
but I can urinate in my backyard though.
Well, okay, that's different, right? Because the law is public urination, right? So if you're out in public and you're urinating into a cup, are you in violating of the law?
Depends on who sees me.
No, it doesn't. Right? You're still outside in public. You're urinating. Your feet are on the ground, so it's under land use jurisdiction. So it doesn't matter if you're holding the cup or not, right?
We'll see.
Same kind of thing.
We'll see. Fortunately, and I mentioned this at the hearing, Herman fortunately had to work to cover some spots while we couldn't both go to this hearing that they had. They had a public hearing here in New York. Deneen was there. She's in the chat. You're familiar with Deneen. Drone X Factor. There were maybe about 7.
Yeah, Arthur was there.
8
Jeff
of us
was
that
there.
were there.
Yeah.
And I pointed out during this hearing. Now, I didn't plan on speaking, but they were like, "Yo, if they give you a chance to speak, go ahead and speak." So I got up and I pointed out how before we used to have to call the airport here in New York City to let the airport know, the tower, whatever local tower we were in, whatever airspace, know that we were about to fly a drone for how long, et cetera, et cetera. New York City, the metropolitan area, did have a 30-day waiver or fee that you had to apply for 30 days in advance, just like this. And I pointed out to the lawyers that were there, even though this was preordained and we knew it was going through, that had failed because the FAA said, hey, let's let them call the airport. At least we know where they are. The airport knows where they are. And now we have Lance. So how does this apply with Lance, and how does this apply with remote ID? We might go past 7 o'clock tonight.
Oh, that's all right, because I got a lot of things on my head because
right.
Yeah, I think that, Lance is, again, that's getting access to the airspace in terms of airspace authorization. So that's why the FAA is in charge of that, right? You're not
Right.
asking, can I launch at this particular place? You're saying, can I fly in this particular airspace?
Exactly.
So again, that you're outside of land use jurisdiction.
So go ahead.
I think that there's a couple different things to consider. Number one, we've talked about this immensely, right? Is that there's a need for state preemption. So the state preemption clause is still pending in the state legislature. We still need to lobby for that. We still need to bang on doors. And I think this particular permit is one of those that gives even more ammunition to say, here's why it's necessary. Yes. Because if the state of New York passes that preemption, this whole debacle goes away entirely, right? So that's one piece. I think the other is when you look at the land use restriction, the way they've written it, they've forgotten to put operate. And that's a huge mistake, because now, yes, you could jump on a trampoline, launch, you're in the airspace. They have no jurisdiction. Same thing, you're catching in the airspace. Now, you don't want to jump. Okay.
Right.
They do have levitation platforms, right? You've seen some of them will do a globe on it and move it around. It's magnets, right? You're sending a north magnet to a north magnet. Well, that's going to push up. And so you set your drone on top of that.
Yeah, but you got to set up this at every site that you fly.
Well, it'd be just like a landing pad, right?
But to be honest, Ryan, people want to know, how the hell can we fly in New York City legally?
Right.
Until someone calls the FAA or contacts the FAA and says, look, NYPD is effing up here. We got to stop this. You guys need, because Herman pointed this out to me, and I asked him, well, why isn't the FAA doing anything? And the question is, you don't think about dog shit until you step in it.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately,
how are we going to fly here?
That's exactly how they operate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think the FAA has any involvement in this, because again, the FAA is airspace and this is land use jurisdiction. So I think that the two routes to go, one would be just like Zemo did, is I would probably run a suit in federal court and be looking at especially First Amendment restrictions, right? This is a restriction on your First Amendment rights.
Well, so, also, not to cut you off, Ryan, but also when you look at it, it's actually, and I said this earlier before you came on and first on the stream, they roll this out as a deterrent. This wasn't a way for anybody to operate. This was rolled out as a deterrent because
shadow ban.
Because it stops daily operation. And once you stop daily operations, you already inflict them with Congress.
Right.
Can I make a statement here? And if I have to play the disclaimer, so I go on the line for this, let me play my disclaimer. I've played it several times already, but this clears you, Ryan. This clears you, Herman. This is my personal opinion.
The views and opinions tonight are not necessarily the views and opinions of everybody on the panel and or in the chat.
Okay. Someone in the chat is asking, well, how can we make this happen? People want to know, how can we make this happen? How can we fly legally? And I'm going to point out something. When the aggravation law was upgraded in 2006 and they added the word drone, saying you cannot fly drones in New York State anywhere, blah, blah, blah. When I did a video a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, about a Karen. And the Karen came up to me while I was flying, and the cops were there watching me fly. And the police officer said something very interesting, because they upgraded the law in 2006. Here it is, 2023. And I say maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I did the video. The police officer said while Karen was complaining, he was looking in his handbook for a reason to tell me I could not fly my drone. I was flying illegally. I should not be there, and he could not. And what I told him was, you could not, because first of all, you're on a beach. You're out of, this is not your jurisdiction. If anyone could, the Parks Department could. But going on even further, they have not updated NYPD's handbooks for the aggravation law in 2006. What makes you think they're going to freaking do it now with this law now? You understand? You see my point?
Well, see, but that comes to what I
say?
said to you before. Here goes an organization who has clearly been wrong socially throughout the last few years. And you're saying to me that you have a division of people who are capable of handling an application process for a monthly process. See, once again, I said it was rolled out as a deterrent for drones, not as a way for anyone to operate. And once you made it a monthly application for a flight monthly in advance, 30 days in advance, you just made it a deterrent. You didn't make it a way to operate. Anytime you created a system that stops daily operation, you created a way of stopping operations for other businesses to operate using this technology. Had you come up with a system that you wanted to implement that says, okay, just like your driver's license, you're going to pay 2 years, 3 years of down for it to operate, and we're going to use we're going to monitor the whole system of being able to monitor drones in the city and put our money towards you doing that, as opposed to just being a money grab on trying to nickel and dime everybody for each and every flight. This was a deterrent to stop the hobbyists or your recreation flyers from being in places where they don't want you flying. And that's all this was. Everyone sees it. It has to be challenged.
Right.
It has to be challenged.
I just want to point out something. I'll give you the mic back, Ryan, really quick. But Kovaction says, I don't live in New York City, but I can still write these F-sticks in Albany who are borderline. Now, my response to him was, please do. And also, you need to write your local, whatever state you're in, your local congressman, etc., because this shit could come to your state as well.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, if they get away with that here, what else is next?
Right. Yeah. Dan Canavok, who's in the chat. I've never seen you here. Welcome to Wednesday night with those guys. And he says Zizimo settled. That's the bottom line.
No, that's not the bottom line. They did settle. We are waiting to see what the terms of that settlement were. They settled on Monday, so we have to look at that document. But remember, that's not a precedent, right? They settled. That's theirs. So that's their corporation. Now you can use some of that information to help in terms of your particular circumstance, but that doesn't have any bearing on anything at this point, right? I think the interesting thing in terms of fighting this, number one, would be to do a type of suit like Zemo, and file in federal court against the permit. I think you could continue the fight at the state legislature to press for that preemption clause. This is a perfect example of why that is so important. To me, I would probably, in terms of the way I would fight it, would be to go to the ridiculous, right? The ridiculous for me would be, I would probably tie some helium balloons together, hang my drone off of it, and string that thing up and let it float around and take my pictures.
All right. Well, to show you how anal New York State is, we recently passed a law about 3 years ago where it's illegal to launch large amounts of balloons or balloons into the airspace.
Release them.
Yes.
But you're talking release. I wouldn't be talking release. I'd be having them on a tether, right?
You're talking
tether. My drone. Right. So I'm going the ridiculous. I'm tethering this thing up. I'll keep the camera on. I'll use the drone, right?
I'm just keeping you on your toes. Man.
Exactly. Now the other is I would launch. To me, in my reading of this, you can't launch or land on the property. Well, that means, boom, I'm either going to be on a trampoline to launch and catch.
But once again, here's the problem. Now we start playing into the laws that we are supposed to abide by, which are the federal laws, and taking off from an aircraft. What's constituted as an aircraft?
Well, no. So think about this. That again, we're talking land use. So go back to Chicago. This is probably a really great one. The FAA has jurisdiction over airspace. They do not have jurisdiction over airports.
Right.
Did you know that? So in Chicago, you had Mayor Daley, who had decided, hey, I do not want an airport, Meigs Field in downtown Chicago. I want to get rid of this thing. So one night in the middle of the night, he got construction crews out there and they tore up the entire airport. They just ripped it out, right? Okay. And it was perfectly legal for him to do that per the FAA because the FAA didn't have land use jurisdiction. The city did.
You have a valid point, and Jody in the chat goes, they're not laws, they're rules, and that's the point I was making in talking about the Karen. The police officer, they haven't even. New York City has not even upgraded the rules for adding the word drone to the aggravation law in 2006 that says you can't fly a drone in New York City. What makes you think they're going to update their rule books to say you cannot fly a drone unless you have to pay $150?
Well, right now, your man is on a money grab on everything. If you look around the city, we had a crane that fell today.
Yes.
Next, he's coming for their throats next. You understand what I'm saying to you? It is what it is. It's what's happened under the administration. And
under this administration.
Oh, you don't want to get the disclaimer, not me, but
yeah.
The views and opinions tonight are not necessarily views.
Go ahead.
I think the other thing you can think of is, we're talking about commerce, that this is preventative of commerce. And this is me talking, in terms of challenging it and going to the ridiculous, right? Interstate commerce is where the big challenge would be, because this would prevent interstate commerce if you were flying from across a state line, right? So are you able to get across the state line from New Jersey to New York City?
Yes,
because you go into the waterway. So if you're on a barge or ferry or whatever, if you launch from there, you could go over into the city, so long as you continue visual line of sight, right? Follow all the FAA regulations. Right. Then you've defeated that rule. But when I would do that, right, I would be requesting New York City to ticket me. I'd be like, hey, look, I'm flying in your airspace. I took off and landed and I flew this location. Aren't you going to ticket me? They don't have jurisdiction because it's outside of their jurisdiction, right? You're in New Jersey, number one, and it's interstate commerce, number two. So if they were to pursue that, you would be able to say, all right, you don't have land jurisdiction here. And oh, yes, you are impacting my ability to have interstate commerce. And that's a huge one at the federal level.
Well, this is our concern because go ahead, Herman.
Go ahead, Lawrence. Say what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I'm saying this is our concern because at that hearing, I spoke on how it's the commerce in New York City. I don't even say New York because it's New York City, because anywhere outside of the 5 boroughs, we're not going through this bullshit. Honestly. Okay. So
right.
Well, but it's leaking, it's bleeding, it's an ulcer right now. It's getting worse. The blood is spreading, and if we don't do something about it other than complain and say, catch me if you can, this is going to spread to other states. And I'm afraid look at New York. They're going to say, look at New York.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate to say there's 17 states with a preemption clause that this would not be a problem. And so that's where it's really super important to have a preemption clause.
Across state lines.
You're absolutely right, Ryan. And that's why and I do this every single live stream, and also this one. In the link in the description of the chat below, I have a form letter that is written that you can use. Just change the state and your local officials, and it's the preemption laws fight where we had that form letter that you had given us to put out to everyone. It's in the chat. It's right there. You can copy it. It's in the description. Excuse me. It's in the description. You can copy it, fill it out to suit you, whether you're a hobbyist or Part 107. Send it to your local officials, your state officials. Fight for the preemption, because we can't have stuff like this happening. And here in New York, we're actually fighting for this, because we talk about commerce. You're interfering with daily operations.
This
can't have a 30-day process.
I agree with you, Herman. I agree with you also, Ryan, but here's what it comes down to. And I'm going to repeat myself. I've said it on the last 3 live streams. Herman mentioned this years ago. It's now to the point right now, Ryan, where you cannot fly in New York City unless you are a Part 107 pilot. Because, and here's the point I'm making. I've flown recently. I've flown at night. I've had police officers come to me, and I'm dying for one of them to say, you cannot fly your drone here because of this new rule. And I can ask them, show it to me in your rule book. Because if it's not documented yet, and I don't want to see
that little yellow gun, you might be breakdancing.
The point I'm making is not to question authorities, but you have to enlighten them. A lot of them are hearing there's no drone flying anymore. The mayor says there's no drone flying. They have a hotline, Ryan, that if you see someone flying a drone, call this number right now, and with remote ID coming in and all of this, it's crazy. But right now, until someone shows me something documented, it's a rule. It's not a law. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but once they make it a law, it's official. Right now, it's a rule, and it can be challenged.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. So rules have the force of law. So,
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried.
Hey, let me give you, though, another opportunity to go to the ridiculous to defeat this thing, right? And we've used this here in Michigan a few times. If you're to go to fly a drone in a place that they do not want you to fly a drone, the only person that can be ticketed is the person flying the drone, right?
Right.
Who's operating the drone. So if you've got 6 people around and everybody's got a drone controller, who's the one operating the drone? Right?
Hold on.
Police will get around that real quick.
Pick a guy.
The police will get around that real quick.
Draymond has a question that I don't have the answer to. And he says, does the airspace in New York City change at night? Some areas do have different classifications from day to night to day. Okay. But I could not. I just told him I would have to research that. I did not know.
No.
I have a problem with that. Part 107 is education. If it's not a flying skill, there are many without it that are better flyers, but education is good for everyone. I understand that, Lake Pilot, but right now in New York City, present day, if you are a hobbyist and a cop tells you can't fly here, you got to go. As a
that's always been the case.
Pilot, right now, as
sort
a
of
Part 7 pilot, I did it the other night. Police officer said, "We see you guys flying drones," and I explained that I was flying a drone recreationally, but I am registered and I'm a Part 107 pilot. And he says, my buddy is too.
Did he tell you to get out of here?
That's one of the interesting things about this rule, right? Is that it requires that you are Part 107. And it designates that if you are not Part 107, you are relegated to the AMA parks, the 5 AMA parks that are established
is the point I'm
at
trying to
different
make.
places. Now, here's one of the interesting things, right? Could you apply for one of these permits as a Part 107 pilot and fly recreationally? They haven't even considered that, right? And yet that is a very valid operation. You as a Part 107 pilot, you can say, you know what, today I'm going to fly recreationally. You aren't using your Part 107 credentials. You're flying 44809. So that also is kind of a, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense in terms of applicability to flight.
Ryan, you know, it's funny you say that because I kind of envisioned this a long time ago. And I said to Lawrence, I said, you know, it's going to come a time where if you want to fly recreational, you better get your flights in while you're working as a Part 107.
Yeah.
Fly
Yeah.
there.
And I've done
I'm
it
hopeful
before.
that's not the case, but yeah,
But, you know,
it's more and more headed that way.
But you know what, Ryan? I've done it before. I've worked under a Part 107 pilot before I was Part 107. And he was like, look, I'm here for 3 hours. We're finished in 2.5. Go fly, get some footage. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, look, you've worked for me. This is my time. Go get in a flight. Now, how would that apply in present day?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing. So
From a
let's
hobbyist,
follow
I
that,
hire
right?
a hobbyist, right?
So let's do that. So let's say you are 44809 and you go, you know what? I'm going to follow the rules that New York City has for this permit. As a 44809, I can't apply for it because I'm going to get denied. This requires a Part 107. So now I go to Lawrence. I say, hey, Lawrence, apply for this permit for me. And Lawrence, you apply for it. You get approved, right? It's under you. And I come in 44809. I want to fly, right? I'm going to fly under you as you're the permit holder.
Right.
But in this case, it does not look like this would allow that to happen because you have to be the pilot according to this thing.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I'm just throwing ideas out there for the people who are watching and lurking. You know.
See, because that becomes disturbing to me because, okay. When
someone says, will you be able to fly from a boat?
What?
Yes.
When applying for insurance, right? The insurance covers both me and Lawrence. It doesn't. It's not stating that the person who's applying for the permit, the insurance covers the both of us. So whoever's applying would have to fly that mission, and then we would have to.
It's crazy.
It is crazy because I can't understand how this they didn't. Okay, I say this again. It was implemented as a deterrent to stop people from flying all the time.
And it's basically a shadow ban,
right?
Yeah,
and it's not good.
Yeah, I'll go back to the question on the boat, right? So there's an answer of yes and no. So if you were on, I don't know, a boat in your backyard, let's put a boat in your backyard. Why not?
Okay, great.
You would not be able to fly because again, that's land use jurisdiction. The backyard pond that you have is part of the land. You're on the boat. So boom, that would be against it. Now, if you're in the Hudson River, right, that's considered a waterway thoroughfare. So the jurisdiction is no longer the city of New York in certain areas. And so if you're on a boat there, no, sorry, you're not part of New York City. And so you would be able to fly. It's within the boundary of New York City, but it's not under the jurisdiction of the city. So yes, you'd be able to take off and land. But again, that's only in certain waterways where you have navigable waters.
Okay.
Oh, I'm glad you're explaining this, and I hope I know a lot of people are going to watch the replay of this stream. They say this is confusing they make it confusing for a reason. I agree with you, Ed, which I haven't seen in a while, and so I hope all is well. What were you going to say, Herman?
Well, I wanted to piggyback on what you had just mentioned and what Ryan was saying, because if you finish with your statement, because
yeah, go ahead.
Because I've seen this before, and even from when I was in school, I was always intrigued by history, and I've always looked at how things work and how people do things. And here we go once again. And it's a playbook that is run over and over. I don't care who you are, what country you're from, what city, what organization. It's a playbook that is run, and I've seen this before. There was a time where in New York City, yellow cabs were all over the 5 boroughs. That was the only cab.
Talked about this.
Yellow cabs. And people started to look at that and was like, wait a minute, it's just the yellow cabs. Yellow cabs everywhere. And then the yellow cabs would say, like, they got a little, well, I'm not going there. I don't want to go to that neighborhood. So what happened with some of the yellow cabs going to those neighborhoods, they would get beat up, robbed. Some of them almost, put in the hospital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my father had said something to me before, and he's like, it's funny how things work. The guy who actually wanted that jurisdiction was probably the guy who was inflicting that harm on those guys to get that jurisdiction. And since then, since that has happened, the yellow cabs no longer go all over the 5 boroughs. So Staten Island, they ain't even trying to go out there because they're not getting a fare to come back. So we've had all these local cab companies pop up from all over. I don't care how you implement it. Once you make it difficult for a person to operate in a specific area, then they'll go away.
Yep.
And when you do that with business, you interfere with commerce, and New York has to look at this. This has to be challenged.
And you've got that perfectly, Herman. So if we stick with the automobile analogy, right? Back when automobiles were first being introduced, first being invented, over in Great Britain, there was what called red flag laws. And the red flag laws were basically saying, you cannot drive a vehicle faster than 5 miles an hour because it's going to scare a horse. And in order to drive that vehicle, you have to have somebody out in front of your vehicle waving a red flag so everybody knew you were coming and they could quiet their horses and what have you. Well, that kind of law, it made it preventative from anybody actually driving a car, right? And so you were kicking all those car owners and saying, hey, you can't drive here, basically. It was a shadow ban. What happened was, manufacturing of cars, I'm not going to do it in England. Doesn't make sense. I can't have them drive here, so I can't sell them here. I'm going to go elsewhere. Hello, Michigan. The big three, they get, cemented in Michigan because Michigan said, hey, we aren't going to have those types of laws. In fact, Michigan went the other way and said, we will not have tollways. We are not going to make you pay for our roads. And Michigan was the first in the nation to build a highway, right? So here's a highway here. You can drive your car on our roads freely. And that took off. So that's where you cemented that industry.
Right.
So you have New York City saying, we're not going to allow drones. We're going to have this shadow ban in place. And what you're doing is you're killing the industry in New York City. And you're telling everybody who wants to fly a drone or have drone industry, leave New York, go away.
Well,
that's a big concern.
Well, here's something that I hope raises an uproar. You're making it illegal to fly a consumer drone in New York City, correct? But you're also taking taxes from Best Buy, B&H Photo, Adorama, and all these places that are selling freaking drones in the city.
Sure.
Okay, so now either you can sell
but they would never
drones so we
stop
can
them from
fly,
selling them.
or you're gonna what's that, Herman?
They would never ask them to stop selling them.
Exactly. So you're gonna sell. What you're saying is you're gonna sell drones in a state where it's illegal to fly them, or an area where it's illegal to fly them. But you're going to collect tax money. You're going to collect that $5. Well, that's federal for registering, but you get where I'm going with this. Yeah. You're taking.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, Lawrence. And this is what I said to you before. I have a legally registered business with the state of New York. We're registered to operate here. We have our state certifications. Everything is in place to be able to operate here. And then the mayor says, well, I'm going to nickel and dime you to you can't fly every day. You have to fly once a month each time you put a process an application. He's interfering with my business. He's interfering with other businesses. And what bothers me with this, to the point is, you've implemented congestion pricing. You're forcing motorists who come into this city and who live in this city to pay into a business that they don't use.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're taking from a business that's trying to operate, that's doing work in the city. That this is a fairly new technology to this city, because in talking with some of the companies that I talked to, a lot of them have worked outside of the city and used it in other states, but they haven't used this technology here. And this is new to them. And I'm introducing this to the first time to some of the people I'm ever speaking to. And trying to get this going in New York with this dude, the mayor in New York City, is ridiculous. He's out of his mind. He's trying to just take money. He's on a money grab. He needs money bad. He needs it bad. I don't know why he's implementing these type of penalties to people and fines all over in different areas. What's next with the crane operators? Who knows?
Right, especially with the crane that just fell today. The crane that just fell today. I expect Mayor Adams to get on the news either tonight or tomorrow morning and say, we must see why these cranes are falling so we can charge more money. Not in so many words, but that's where he's going.
And New York has a history with that. So you think about the building facades, right? So at one point, a piece of building fell down, hit a person and killed them. And so New York went, hey, wait a minute, we need a law that is going to require inspections of the buildings on a frequency basis. So they put that in, and they put in a clause that said, well, we understand if you have scaffolding up, we're going to be okay with that because you're protecting people down below. And so what everybody did was they put up scaffolding, and you have scaffolding everywhere in New York City that is never coming down because that's their way around that building inspection law.
Right now,
you stack them all together.
Now every 90 days you have to pay, or re-register or pay $6,000.
You got to pay every 90 days for a new permit to keep that sidewalk shed up,
right?
To be able to protect pedestrians from whatever work is going on in your building.
Right.
And if you don't, you're getting hit with a $6,000 fine first offense.
But it's cheaper to do that than it is to do the building inspection for your facade, because you might find something wrong there that's going to take money to pay for.
Yeah.
That's the history of New York City.
But you see, once again, I expect everything that we see happening to happen here in New York. And I'll tell you why. We have 3 racetracks here in New York City. This is the city. This piece of work here in New York City is a city that lost money on off-track betting.
Right.
Tell me how. So I can get 2 guys up the block to handle that work, and they won't lose no money.
And it's for that reason, Ryan, illegal numbers have come back to New York. Because off-track betting couldn't make enough money, or they couldn't steal enough money to keep it running. Because that's what it fucking was. I'm going to be honest about it.
It's always been said in New York, why does it take so long to get things done? Well, first you got to get the thieves in line, depending on however size of the job it is. And once you get them in line, then it'll start to take the place.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
madness.
Lake Pilot says, kind of like the people that used to get motorcycle permits instead of a license. I get a license if I don't have to get it. And
It's madness.
Unfortunately, Ryan, right until someone makes enough noise, we're gonna have to tolerate this. But as you know, Ryan, I'm not worried about flying a drone in New York City until a police officer comes to me and says it's illegal to fly here. In which case, if he does, I will comply and leave and go somewhere else and fly. But right now, there is not documented in law. If it's not law, it's a rule. So now you're going to have good cop, bad cop, Ryan, in New York City. You're going to have the cops that don't like drones. And go ahead, Herman.
But you see, with what you said, I'm afraid of the guy who is out flying his drone and he runs into the next cop that wants to be a YouTube star. You know what I'm saying? I told you about the little yellow gun.
Yeah, the taser.
You can't take that off of you.
New York City drone pilot tased.
Once you start breakdancing.
You're right. You are right about it. Listen, the other guys who are lurking, and you guys haven't lurked, and you guys with the burner accounts and all of that, if you haven't clicked the like button, go ahead and do it. Get it out your system.
You know what? I see, once again, I didn't hit the like button.
Well, see, Brian, so we will keep you posted with what we hear. And of course, you hear stuff from New York and don't even live here. Well, so please keep us posted, man.
Right. Well, Ryan,
absolutely. Yeah. And we're going to follow up with Zemo, see what, really came out of that and what can be used for a lawsuit going forward that's helpful. But inevitably, I think it's important that this particular rule gets challenged in a court of law, and really chase an injunction to make sure that the city can't use it on anybody else.
Right. Ryan, truthfully speaking,
hold on. I need to explain. Yellow guns are tasers, Lake Pilot. The cops carry yellow. Their tasers are yellow.
We have to figure out a way to stop this because it interferes with daily operations. And once you interfere with daily operations, you interfere with business being able to be done. This was rolled out as a deterrent, and I understand you rolled it out as a deterrent to stop recreational pilots or what you could deem as a rogue pilot from being able to fly in certain areas. And I understand that. But this interferes with daily operations because you came out with a blanketed system to backdoor your way into selling airspace. And this has to be stopped.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my last one in terms of going to the ridiculous to challenge this, right? I would get a kid, an elementary school or middle school kid, and here's a drone. We're going to have you fly it in your backyard. We're going to call the police. We're going to have them come out. We're going to record this event, right? If they're going to ticket the kid, all right, we'll pay the $250 fine, whatever. But, that's going to make it to the news to say you are preventing a child operating a drone in their own backyard, learning STEM technology, and you think this is a good rule to have? And just force that ridiculousness to public opinion. And public opinion will, I suspect, go, hey, wait a minute, we need to change this up.
Yeah. Well, we promise to keep you guys posted on what's going on right now. Herman and I have no choice because we are in the business of trying to make money legally with drones, and what affects us affects you guys out there. Someone mentioned in the chat, for the people who showed up at that comment hearing, they appreciated it. I pointed out while I was up during the comments that, to be honest, we should have filled that room up and kept them there listening to comments until fucking midnight.
True. That
was a foregone conclusion.
But enough with that, Ryan. Latourette, we appreciate you, man. It's that magic time.
Is it? Wow, I
Thank you.
still
Thank
want
you.
to keep
That
going.
magic time.
We
Yes.
got 26 people here still watching. Let's keep it going. I don't care. We can keep on talking for a few more minutes. Ryan, if you have the time.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, we can keep it
If
going
you
for a
listen,
few minutes.
let's go. Let's go.
Because
Let's keep
you
going.
know, I just look at it. You know, the reason why it needs to be challenged is because something like this, as ridiculous as it is, as much as it is, and I've pointed out 101 ways to first. Because if I got a call today stating that I have a permit we got a boat, we're gonna be flying or so and so, and I need you to get some shots of my boat in the dock. Well, I have to now get on that boat to take these pictures of this boat because I can't take off from the ground to get these pictures of the boat because I have to apply 30 days in advance. If I get a call from a guy that says, listen, we got a video shoot, my guy is sick, I need you to get some shots of my video, I have to tell him, well, I have to apply for your video shoot 30 days in advance because I have to apply to be able to shoot your video. This interferes with daily flight. And when you interfere with daily flight, you're interfering with the business, period. And that supersedes anything as far as recreational, whereas that this was designed to stop the recreational guys from being able to operate in places where they don't want you to operate. And I understand that.
You're
I understand
100%,
100%, but it's bad all the way around because.
And you know, to say that, right? Does a permit make sense in New York City? It could.
It's not
what you could say is, you could say, hey, we'll have a permit to do commercial operations in the city. You pay $150 a year. And
exactly. I'm agreeing with that.
It's like a bike license, right? You're going to pay
we
to have your
107.
license on your bike. Right.
No, I can agree with that also, but there were some valid points brought up at this comment hearing that I went to, and you had people there from the movie industry, you had news reporters, you had people from the agriculture department, in the agriculture section. There were a lot of people represented. You had New York City hobbyists, you had New York City Part 107 pilots, you had business owners such as Herman and others there, and all of us brought up the valid point, including the news media. They said, like the crane that fell today in New York. You mean to tell me I can't report this story because the crane fell? I had to apply last month. It's ludicrous.
Right.
It's freaking ludicrous. And then on top of it, they tell you it's in the first paragraph. You apply for this application to fly in New York City as a Part 107 pilot for the fee of $150, 30 days in advance. But it is not guaranteed you will be approved the waiver to fly. Why am I going to give you a fucking $150 for a maybe?
Right.
I'm sorry.
And I have a contract with a company.
I'm sorry, I'm ranting a little.
I have a contract with a couple of companies that say that monthly we need you to come out and get our photos so we can get our photos to our partners so they can see these photos, that they don't have to come out to the job site to see what the progression of where the job is going.
Yeah.
Monthly photos that we can actually demean, that we can say that, okay, well, this is where we are so far. This is where we wanted to be. What happened? What caused us to be at this point? What can we do that we don't have to end up this way? For the next month, we can be ahead of time. We can get this data is very important for companies, and it's new to a lot of companies, and a lot of companies that are implementing it. And the mayor is destroying this.
Well, I look at it this way too. So we're talking about a permit. I think one of the reasons that they were saying, hey, we may not approve this, and they were trying to limit things down. Let everybody and his brother is going to say, hey, I want to apply to fly at Times Square on New Year's Eve, right? Everybody and his brother, I want to fly in Times, and it won't even be necessarily in New Year's Eve. They're going to fly there every single day. They want to have, there's going to be 1,000 pilots that all say, I want to fly there. So you do want to, as a city, as a mayor, you're going to go, hey, I don't want that to become an airport and have 1,000 flights there every single day. I need to limit this down. And I understand that. So you have, a same system as a land system, right? I could implement that to say, hey, I want to fly in this particular location at this particular time, and it could be near real time, or that day, that 2 hours ahead, whatever it might be. Now, as far as the police understand, I have a legitimate operator who's made a request for a location. They've been approved by the FAA for that airspace. I could get that off of Lance, require the Lance approval as well. I could literally see this person is going to legitimately fly a drone following FAA rules. I'm comfortable with their location. Or I could find out, hey, I've got 500 requests for Times Square. I'm going to limit Times Square to the first 100 applicants for that location for that day. So they could have done something like that. They didn't. They failed.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
Ryan, let me explain something. Lawrence and I got a contract. I got a contract to fly for a construction company. And the first thing that Lawrence and I did was we went to the local precinct, which is a block away from where we're going to be operating.
And there's a prison there.
And there's a juvenile detention center in the area. Yep. And this is the company that hired us, or that brought us into their company to get photos for their partners. And it's a big, high-profile job for them. And they wanted their customers their partners to be able to see the photos of this job. So we went to the local precinct. We gave them a business card and we gave them our names and everything. We're going to be operating in the area. We gave our information to the local, and they were
juvenile detention.
The juvenile detention, and they were glad to get that information to know that we were going to be in the air, just in case they got anyone who might have said, I see this, or this is there, and if their employees know that, to let their employees that this is here, this is what's happening.
Right.
I don't understand.
Even the police knew.
Right. I don't understand why New York City didn't think of something in that manner, to where is that you have a system where you're going to allow companies, or legitimate companies, to operate in your city, to be able to have if you want to do a permit system, have a yearly systems that's similar to like your driver's license or the car registration, where you can do that, and they can operate under being able to notify the local precinct, and instead of exhausting your money into people who are just going to collect paperwork or collect monitor computer work and collect money, because that's what you want, is money.
Right.
And they can focus on monitoring the remote ID to see who's flying legally and who's not flying legally.
Well, to see, extent, this is what I wanted to ask you, Ryan. This is what I wanted to ask you, Ryan, in general. Where does remote ID come into this? Because I have an app on my phone right now. Herman and I were flying. We were working. We got authorization through Lance, sectioned off
funny you say
blah, 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 through law. And we had a drone pilot fly over our site. And I actually pulled it out. And because remote ID wasn't active, he had a Phantom 4 Pro V2. Herman was flying the Mavic 3, and I was spotting for him. The remote ID app picked up Herman's app with no information because it's not active. But we actually got to talk with this pilot, and I went to him and like, look, we have authorization to freaking fly here. You don't fly here no more. Oh, who hired you? Come to make a long story short, we found out he was prospecting. He saw a construction site. He's a drone pilot. He was trying to get work. And we made it very clear. Don't bring your fucking ass here because we're here. But when remote ID does come into effect, I would have been able to say, oh, the drone is here, the pilot's over there. Let me go have a talk with him.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, you'd be
but-
able to do that.
But I let him know, if we see you here again, because we are working for these people, for these owners of this site, we will call the police and we'll have them make you leave. Plain and simple.
Yeah, except that here's the problem, right? So if he had airspace authorization, he can fly there too, right? So
True.
It'd be a way to identify, hey, there's another person I want to go coordinate to make sure they're not in my shots. I'm not at their level. We're not going to have mid-air collision, etc.
So you're saying when he lands his drone,
that's the most important thing what Ryan is saying.
So you're saying when he lands his drone, I can't kick it across the street?
No,
yeah.
No, what Ryan is saying is
just being facetious.
Because let's be honest, the company actually hired me because I said, I told a story on this before. The site where this construction site is, I used to work there when I first graduated high school, and it's now becoming an apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major job for this company that's doing the job. And I said, wow, they're putting up a building there. I've been there for so long. Let me get a picture of this.
Yeah.
And they saw me, and I spoke with them, and I gave them my card, and then I went by there again because I saw the change in the property. I said, let me get another shot. And Lawrence happened to be with me. And they
because I spot for him while he flies, etc.
And they came up to us and they were like, "We're looking for."
Is that your drone?
Yeah, we're looking for a drone pilot, someone who's legal, that can get some shots for our build out. And I said, "Well, we're right here," and that's
right,
how.
But even more so, Ryan, it's funny because they came to us because they said, is that your drone? And Herman was like, yes. They said, oh, we thought it was the preacher because there's a church right there. And when the preacher or the pastor of the church was asking about the site, and he was complaining he couldn't see through the windows. So they thought he went and brought a drone and was looking into the site. By chance, they saw Herman and I with our vest on, and they came over to us.
Yep.
Which was interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, that's prospecting. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I think that's the case. We do have to share the sky, right? And remote ID is going to help with that to make sure, hey, wait a minute, I see another drone here. I'm going to go coordinate with that other person.
Exactly.
I think one of the interesting things
there's enough room to share. There's enough room.
Right. I think one of the interesting things with drone ID, right, remote ID, is there are some drones that are not going to be on there, right? You're going to have recreational flyers of minis who are not going to show on remote ID, right?
True.
And so do we have a situation where that's going to help police or harm them in the application of these rules? See, they don't know.
Well, that's the next thing. Will they be able to operate in controlled airspace?
Oh, okay, because you're going to be in Class B airspace out there. They still should be able to, as recreational pilots. Yeah, as long as they get their lands, they should be able to. You don't have a zero grid, right?
No.
Yeah.
Just in certain areas of Manhattan.
Yes. Right, like
the
around
rest of the city, I don't believe there's a zero
like around
grid.
the former president's
maybe. There are some zero grids in Queens because they're in flight paths and they're in
right. There's one flight path that doesn't fly over a prison. There's a Rikers Island prison, but the flight path curves the planes around that particular prison. They have to go around it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Depending, but yeah. Listen, we need to get out of here, guys.
Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been fun, but
you know,
I have dinner.
Yeah, it's
I got
about that
storms
time.
coming.
Ryan, I really appreciate having you on here. We talk about some really informative stuff that's important to guys in the industry, guys in the community.
And we're the only ones from New York doing this.
And getting into actually the legalities and certain things, and being able to fight some of these fights that come up frivolously from local municipalities. Guys, like I said, in the description below, there's form letter
application to fill out
for the preemption laws in your state. Just fix it to suit your state. Hit your state officials, your local people. Fight the good fight, and hope that what's going on in New York doesn't trickle down to you, because we're fighting here and hoping that we can get this off the books. And like I said, there's other ways around it, but this was formed as a deterrent. This was informed to help anybody, except for them to get money.
Right.
And if any of you guys have anything to say, before
if you're a hobbyist and you want to continue flying right now in the state of New York, and you don't want to become a Part 107, stay in those 5 airfields, and you'll stay out of trouble.
That works if you're here, yeah. Ryan,
I'm just saying. Anything you want to say, Ryan, real quick?
I think you've covered it.
We appreciate you, Ryan. Every time you come on, I look forward. I like watching the live stream over, and let's just say, stop panicking, New York. The sky is not falling. It only looks like
it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
We're still fighting.
Still fighting. The gloves are still on. There's a few more rounds left in the fight, and we can still wait. We can still move the scales. So with that, guys, like I said, we appreciate you all, and we thank you for coming. And with that, and I'll see you next time on Wednesday night with those guys.
Guys.
Good night, everyone.